soir. Pendant les élections, depuis le mois d'avril, on a tout écouté les questions concernant le système de l'eau à Pointe-Claire, les inondations, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire. Il y a beaucoup de monde ici aujourd'hui qui a eu des troubles à la maison, il y a d'autres qui n'ont pas eu des troubles, mais ils veulent savoir qu'est-ce qui se passe. L'idée ce soir, c'est vraiment un travail, je ne sais pas si c'est le bon français, travail en marche. Quand j'étais élu, au mois de novembre, la première chose que j'ai demandé, c'est d'avoir un rapport de où on a rendu avec les situations et les solutions pour l'inondation. Puis l'équipe ici a fait une présentation, puis j'étais vraiment, vraiment impressionné avec tous les travaux qu'il a fait depuis le 13 juillet l'année passée. Non, le 9 août l'année passée. Il a vraiment travaillé beaucoup sur nos systèmes d'égouts, puis le drainage, puis tout, mais c'est pas quelque chose qu'on peut tout ranger pendant une semaine, une été. Il y a beaucoup d'ouvrages, il y a beaucoup d'études à faire, et puis il y a beaucoup de travail à faire, puis il y a beaucoup d'argent à dépenser. So tonight the idea was just to give you guys relief that we're working really, really hard on it. They have found some solutions. They have done some great work. There's some temporary measures they're going to try to use in the event that we have another storm short term. I'm going to let them all tell you about it. I think the best thing to do is if we hold all the questions off, because I think they're going to answer most of your questions. And then at the end of it, we'll take questions. But I just like to see a show of hands. How many people actually had flooding in their homes in the last two floods? Perfect. How many people have done stuff on their homes already to migrate to the water solution? And how many people did it work? We don't know, right? So the same thing with us. So we're coming up with all these solutions. We're doing all kinds of studies. We're doing all kinds of different, trying different strategies. And at the end of the day, we're going to put our best foot forward. We're going to try to make the best effort. Is it going to work? We're sure hoping it does. But like all of you, I don't want this team to get attacked. They're all trying to do their best to understand the new reality of climate change. So on that note, I'm going to pass it on to, first of all, let's just thank all the councillors for being here. So we got Eric Stork, Mr. Ludovic Matthews, Kelly Thorstad-Cullen, Cynthia Holman, Claudine Demers, Mr. Potvin, and Andrew Swazinski. So we're all here. Every district has been affected. Toutes les districts ont eu quelque chose. Beaucoup l'eau, petit montagne de l'eau, mais on a été tout touché d'une façon ou l'autre. So c'est sûr qu'il y a du monde qui a eu beaucoup plus de dommages que d'autres personnes, mais l'idée là, c'est comment on peut régler la situation que on a plus de troubles. Mais encore, c'est pas juste la ville. Il faut qu'on travaille en équipe. On peut faire nos possibles, mais les résidents, il faut qu'ils fassent le possible aussi. Il faut qu'on travaille ensemble. Il n'y a pas une solution, c'est pas juste la faute d'une personne, ça va être vraiment un travail d'équipe. So, là, je vais passer le micro au Mr. Girouard, puis bonsoir, puis merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Donc, bonsoir à tous. Bienvenue à cette session d'information concernant la gestion des eaux pluviales à la Ville de Pointe-Claire. Comme M. le maire a mentionné, Gilles Girouard, directeur adjoint de la Ville de Pointe-Claire. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to this information session with respect to stormwater management at the City of Pointe-Claire. Before beginning, I'd like to mention that the presentation will be done bilingually, French and English, basically en alternance, okay, going back and forth throughout the presentation, and there'll be a question period at the very end. And also, I'd like to introduce some of my colleagues this evening. They'll be presenting as well. So we've got the Director of Engineering, Mr. Benoit Filion, Director of Public Works, Mr. Eric Rallat, and the Director of ISP, so Public Security and Inspection, Mr. Mark Tanguay. So throughout this presentation, basically we'll be providing information with respect to, as Mr. Mayor had mentioned, what's ongoing, what's current, and what's to come with respect to stormwater management at the City of Pointe-Claire. We'll also provide you a little bit of a recap of how our network functions in the City of Pointe-Claire, especially with respect to the heavy rainfall episodes that we've seen over the past 2 years in 2024 as well as 2025. We'll do a little bit of a recap as well with respect to our stormwater management plan, and we'll provide you with some details with respect to our 2026 stormwater management projects. So the overall objective of the presentation this evening is to provide information to you, citizens of Pointe-Claire, to deploy communication in a more regular fashion with respect to stormwater management. This will not be the last information session nor conference with respect to this topic moving forward. We want to also demystify how the network functions, as I mentioned earlier on, enhance our collective understanding of the network, especially with the recent rainfalls events that we've received in 2024, 2025, identify what can be done, where can it be done throughout the territory, and to gain, ultimately, territorial resilience throughout these steps that we'll be taking at the City of Pointe-Claire. Now, although we're 4 presenters, employees here today to present you information on this topic, I can assure you that it is a top priority at the City of Pointe-Claire. It's one that is deployed through many services, implicates a lot of employees. There are also citizens like you that have lived through the consequences of the heavy rainfall effects of 2024 and 2025 and are dedicated to increasing our territorial resilience. So what's coming up? What's in development with respect to our initiatives? In essence, there are 4 main development axes at the city right now with respect to stormwater management. We've been exchanging and collaborating with experts in the domain, and you'll see that in the upcoming slides, which basically spawned some initiatives that you'll see in 2026. Development axis number 1 is planning and knowledge building, understanding how our network functions with this new reality, with the heavy rainfall episodes of 2024, 2025. And as such, we initiated in April of 2024 a stormwater management plan, and I'll let my colleague Benoit provide you the details and the objectives of this storm management plan throughout the presentation. But in a nutshell, it implicates network modelization, simulations with the climate variables that we're seeing from this heavy rainfall events to be able to identify the risk areas throughout the territory and essentially pinpoint what are our most optimal interventions to be done on the territory of the City of Pointe-Claire. We've seen the consequences of in 2026. In essence, the premise of these studies have generated a major project in 2026, once again, that my colleague will go through in the following slides. Development number 2, prevention and intervention. This is important. So in essence, proactive weather monitoring, which is done by our teams at Public Works, by our teams at Public Security, as well as communication, and deploying our employees from these services proactively throughout the territory to ensure that our network will function. It also includes continuous maintenance to ensure that our network is free of debris. And last and certainly not least, it implicates integrating within our major capital investment projects some stormwater management initiatives, 2 of which were introduced in 2025. So when we, in essence, worked on the infrastructure project on Winthrop Avenue, we introduced a bioswale. Small little project, but in essence, the intent there is to retain the water, preventing it from flowing into our network. Same thing with Elgin Park. A retention area was created in 2025. So it's the accumulation of these steps and the integration of these projects over time that will help increase our overall resilience. Intervention area number 3, structure and support. So the previous 2 intervention areas you saw were with respect mostly to the public domain. This one pertains to the private domain. So how do we support you citizens that want to undertake some initiatives within your own personal dwellings or pieces of land with respect to stormwater management? So as such, in 2026, you'll see the adoption of a bylaw that will allow us to present a financing program, subsidy program, with respect to interventions that can be made on the private domain. In addition to this, we're also revisiting our construction bylaw, and I'll go in detail in the next slides with respect to this, but essentially, it's with respect to the orientations and principles that are put forth by organizations like Architecture Sans Frontières Québec that are geared towards making our buildings more resilient, our environments more resilient to climate change. And last but certainly not least is we've created an emergency measures webpage, which will be launched as well in 2026, and a guide that'll have a section on heavy rainfall episodes, identifying what needs to be done before, during, and after those heavy rainfall events, and what are some of the risks that are involved therein. Development area number 4, communication, and I can't stress the importance of this for us within the community. So the importance of communicating regularly with all of you with respect to our own initiatives, and also what can be done throughout the territory and the private domain. That's why we've planned future conferences on the matter in 2026. You'll see those deployed throughout the year, as well as a web page that'll be dedicated to stormwater management. We also encourage citizens to incite them to essentially register to our automatic alert system as well, to be alerted when we feel that there could be a heavy rainfall episode. So these are all steps that will be deployed and taken as well in 2026. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that we've collaborated with many entities, some of them that are here. And we've also been able to get some feedback from perhaps some of you that are present today with respect to your experiences, what you've lived through the past 2 years. And it hasn't gone in vain. It has had an impact on the conceptualization of one of our major projects. And we'll get into that in the next slides as well. So this is just a little bit of a snapshot. It's not the entirety of the web page, but you'll have sections that will explain what's done in a preventative manner in terms of maintenance. This will be communicated once again in 2026, launched by our communications team. What the ins and out of our stormwater management plan is, as well as the projects that'll be undertaken throughout the territory and our past projects as well, and how to stay informed with respect to this topic. Now, this is a bit of a recap. So here you have some of the entities that we've been collaborating with. So Architecture Sans Frontières Québec has created a reference guide. I strongly encourage you to go seek out on their website. It's a reference guide that essentially promotes adaptation measures that can be done on the private domain. We'll have a conference on this in 2026 for citizens of Pointe-Claire, but this content will influence the revision of our bylaws in order to make our bylaws more adaptable to the orientations and principles therein. In addition to this, we've been collaborating with the City of Montreal, which has spawned basically the subsidy program that you'll see launched as well in 2026, and with respect to private domain interventions. Pierrefonds Roxborough, we essentially exchanged with them based on their experience, unfortunate experience, that the flooding episodes that they've lived over the past decades, and see whether or not there's some equipment that could be adapted for heavy rainfall episodes. This analysis is still ongoing. L'École de technologie supérieure du Québec, Mr. Filho will get into that detail, but they're basically the individuals that are working on our stormwater management plan and the type of interventions that could be done on the public domain in a short, medium, and long term, and where it's more optimal to intervene. And last but certainly not least, we've got Écohabitation Québec, la Société québécoise de phytotechnologie, GFSA. This is in supplement of the subsidy program. We're looking at perhaps having a turnkey solution for individuals that want to introduce a rain garden within their land. So they come in, they evaluate basically your context and see whether or not it's a feasible solution to redirect water away from the network. Once again, it would be a turnkey solution. So we're working on that and to introduce that with the subsidy program. Same concept with Éco-Habitation Québec or GFSA. They come in and basically evaluate your dwelling to see what type of measures in your particular context, because every context is different. So what is the best measure for you to protect your house against these unfortunate events? So once again, these details will be deployed in 2026. So on that note, I'll pass on the presentation to my colleague that'll go a little bit more into the prevention intervention section.
Merci, Gilles. Well, thank you. As Gilles mentioned, I'm Eric Rolla. I'm the Director of Public Works and Buildings for the city. Je vais passer à travers les types de contaminants qu'on a dans le réseau puis les types d'entretien qu'on fait pour gérer ces contaminants-là. Donc, première chose qui est bien importante de comprendre, c'est qu'à la Ville de Pointe-Claire, on bénéficie d'un réseau séparatif. Ce qui veut dire qu'on a un réseau sanitaire et on a un réseau pluvial. Pour chacun de ces réseaux, il y a des points d'entrée, il y a des contaminants et on a naturellement pour chacun de ces réseaux-là un type d'entretien qu'on fait en conséquence. Pour ce qui est du réseau sanitaire, donc le réseau sanitaire, les points d'entrée sont des connexions directes aux résidences, aux commerces et aux industries. Donc, c'est les conduites qui sont branchées directement de vos maisons, qui vont directement dans le réseau. Les types de contaminants, c'est des déchets domestiques, commerciaux et industriels. Donc, souvent, il y a beaucoup de sédiments, il peut y avoir de la graisse. C'est des choses qui vont coller à la conduite, qui ont tendance à rester dans la conduite et, par conséquent, peuvent s'accumuler avec le temps. Donc, par conséquence, il y a un nettoyage cyclique qui se fait de ces conduites-là. On fait à peu près une section de la ville par année et au fil des ans, on finit par faire le tour de la ville. C'est un nettoyage à haute pression qui nous permet de nettoyer l'entièreté du réseau sanitaire. Pour le réseau pluvial, c'est un petit peu différent. Si on regarde les points d'entrée, pour ce qui est du réseau pluvial, on a vos pompes, vos pompes submersibles qui proviennent de vos maisons, qui est majoritairement de l'eau propre. On a les pluviales de rue et on a aussi des fossés. En termes de contaminants, pour ce qui est des pompes, c'est de l'eau propre, il n'y a rien là. La rue, par contre, peut avoir des feuilles, des branches, des débris de la chaussée, des chaussées aussi. Un petit bémol, au niveau de la chaussée à Pointe-Claire, on est chanceux d'une certaine manière. On bénéficie on a une politique l'hiver, une politique de non-utilisation d'abrasifs. Donc, normalement, dans la majorité des villes, il y a de l'abrasif qui est utilisé durant l'hiver pour aider avec la glace, donc soit de la petite pierre ou du sable. Étant donné que nous, on n'en utilise pas, elle ne s'accumule pas dans les rues, donc on a moins de débris dans le réseau, qui est un bénéfice. Il y a des pour et contre de cette politique-là, mais c'est un des pour de cette politique-là. Et aussi, naturellement, mais avec les fossés, il y a beaucoup de branches puis de feuilles qui peuvent se ramasser dans les conduites par les fossés, surtout ceux qui vont passer dans des secteurs naturels comme le fossé qui passe dans le parc Terracotta. Donc, pour gérer ces contaminants-là, c'est plutôt du travail préventif qu'on va venir faire. On va faire, pour régler ce qu'il y a dans la chaussée, on va commencer par faire du balayage de rue. Donc, nos balais de rue passent toute la saison estivale pour nettoyer les débris de la rue et aussi pour nettoyer les grilles de plusieurs en même temps qui sont le long de la chaussée. Et on va aussi faire du nettoyage cyclique des puisards, parce que les puisards, de la manière qu'ils sont conçus, ils ont un réservoir dans le fond. Il y a une partie du fossé qui est plus bas, donc tout ce qui ne flotte pas se ramasse dans le fond du puisard. Donc, systématiquement, selon un cycle, encore une fois, il y a une portion des puisards de la ville qui sont nettoyés à chaque année, puis on finit par faire le tour de tous les puisards de la ville. Donc, ils sont tous nettoyés pour que tous ces débris-là soient enlevés de ces petits réservoirs qui existent dans chacun des puisards. Pour ce qui est des fossés, c'est là que c'est un petit peu plus difficile. C'est là qu'on a un point d'entrée où il y a des débris qui peuvent rentrer plus facilement, directement dans le système de la ville. Et donc, à ces endroits-là, Après les tempêtes, c'est là qu'on va venir faire une inspection et un nettoyage de la conduite. Mais dans la mesure du possible, on va aussi nettoyer le fossé en amont pour essayer d'enlever ce qu'on peut des branches, puis tout ça. Sauf que durant une tempête, naturellement, il y a souvent beaucoup de feuilles puis de branches qui vont tomber directement dans le fossé et transporter par l'eau jusque dans la conduite. Mais on fait du nettoyage après, en temps et lieu. Dans tous les cas, que ce soit le réseau sanitaire ou le réseau pluvial, si on détecte ou on suspecte qu'il y a un blocage à quelque part, on va venir faire une inspection et on va faire un nettoyage. Justement, un bel exemple de ça, c'est on a une conduite en face des travaux publics qui traverse les voies de CN et de CP. On a détecté qu'il y avait un blocage partiel de cette conduite-là. Bien que la conduite ne nous appartient pas, on travaille avec le CN puis le CP justement pour la faire débloquer, pour assurer le bon fonctionnement de notre réseau. Mais c'est un exemple parmi d'autres. Plan d'intervention en cas de forte pluie. Donc, on sait quand il y a de la pluie qui s'en vient, bien que la quantité de pluie n'est pas toujours le même, on se prépare en conséquence. On a des activités qu'on fait avant, pendant et après l'intempérie. Premièrement, mais naturellement, c'est la préparation de nos zones sensibles, la préparation des endroits où on risque de recevoir des contaminants, donc le nettoyage des fossés surtout, la préparation des points d'entrée. À certains endroits, on a des grilles qu'il faut soit enlever ou soit nettoyer en fonction de l'eau qui va venir. Il y a aussi la préparation des bâtiments, donc de la même manière que les résidents font la préparation de leurs bâtiments, mais la Ville doit eux-mêmes aussi protéger les actifs de la Ville et faire une préparation en conséquence pour minimiser des dommages potentiels. Et aussi, bien, on valide la disponibilité des équipements et du personnel. Durant la tempête, bien, c'est là qu'on va faire la surveillance du réseau et la surveillance des bâtiments et agir en urgence en temps et lieu si c'est nécessaire. Et finalement, bien, après, connaissant nos zones sensibles et les endroits où il y a naturellement probablement des débris qui ont rentré dans certains secteurs, on va venir faire des inspections et un nettoyage en conséquence. Et ça fait le tour de ce qu'on fait au niveau des travaux publics, mais il y a quand même d'autres activités qui sont faites durant un événement de ce type. Et donc, pour faire, je vais laisser mon collègue à l'ISP en parler. I could say it in English if you'd like. I'll go. Yeah? All right. I'll go quick. All right? No problem. Sorry. We were going back and forth. So, no problem. In terms of the sanitary, so City of Pointe-Claire, we have two networks. We have a sanitary network and we have a stormwater network. Two separate networks entirely. So for each of these networks, there are entry points, there are contaminants, and there's maintenance that we do according to each separate network. On the sanitary side, we have direct connections from homes, industries, and businesses. These connections come directly; they're piped in straight from the home, right into the conduit. So there's no exterior contaminants that can come in. They're just the ones that come from the home. But from the home, there's often residue, there's debris, it can be greasy. These things have a tendency to stick to the pipe and make it necessary to come do a cleaning at some point. So for these contaminants, what we do for the cleaning is we come and we do a cyclical cleaning of the city. So we do certain sections of the conduits per year, and over the course of 3-4 years, we will have done an entire cleaning of the entire network from head to toe. On the stormwater side, it's a little different. Our entry points are sump pumps, catch basins, and ditches. Contaminants, well, the contaminants that come in from the sump pump side are clean. It's clean water that's filtered that comes from the nappe phréatique. We have but we also have leaves and branches and a lot of debris from the road. One thing in Pointe-Claire, in the winter, we have a policy where we don't use abrasives. So no sand and no stone to control ice. It's only salt. There are pros and cons to this, but one of the pros is that we don't end up with those contaminants in our network, because obviously those will drain out and end up in the catch basins. The type of cleaning that we do in order to combat this, to respond to these contaminants is, well, first of all, we do the street cleaning, which we carry out all through the summer months in order to clean the debris off the road and also to clean the debris that accumulates over the catch basin grills. Also, the catch basins are built with a reservoir at the bottom. There's a drop so that everything that ends up in the catch basin and sinks will end up at the bottom and will stay there. So we have a cyclical program where we come and we will clean these catch basins. We do a certain amount a year. Over about a 3-4 year period, we will have cycled through all of them, and they're all cleaned up, and we repeat this cycle. The next point where we have contaminants that can enter the network is our ditches. Ditches, especially the ones that will run through forests like terracotta, those can bring debris directly into the conduits. Especially in some areas, we have to either remove the grill and so that it doesn't get blocked during an event. So in these locations, after a storm, when we know we're going to have to inspect and we're going to have to clean, a lot of debris will end up in the network and carried out. Some gets carried out to the lake, but some doesn't, and so we carry out a cleaning after. In all these cases, if ever there's a blockage that is suspected or detected, we will go and we will carry out an inspection and do the necessary cleaning in both networks. And a good example of this is the pipe that runs across CNCP. It's a CNCP pipe, but it's part of our network, and we detected a partial blockage of it, and so we've been working with CNCP in order to unblock this pipe to ensure that our network flows as best as possible. When it comes to heavy rainfall intervention plans, we have activities that are done before, during, and after in order to ensure proper management of the event. So we have ditch cleaning and preparation of entry points. So those entry points where we know there's a lot of debris that could end up in the network, we do as best as possible a cleaning of the ditch in order to reduce the probability of contaminants entering the ditch, and we also will clean the grills so that the maximum amount of water can enter the system. During, we'll do surveillance of the network. Oh, sorry, I skipped one portion. We also validate in the before. We do the preparation of the buildings in the same way that residents will prepare their homes. In a case of a heavy rainfall, the city does the same things with its buildings. We prepare them in order to make sure that we minimize the impact from the heavy rainfall, and we prepare our equipment and our personnel accordingly. During the rainfall, well, that's what we'll do: network and building surveillance and urgent interventions when required. And then finally, after, we'll do the inspection and cleaning of the sensitive areas, so the areas where we could have had some debris enter the system. We'll carry out an inspection and do a cleaning. I'm limited at 2 languages, but all right, thank you. All right, now I'll leave it over to Mark.
Bonjour tout le monde. Pour la sécurité publique, on a 2 façons de voir les événements pour nous. On est déjà un service 24/7, 365 jours par année. Notre centre de communication pour la Ville de Pointe-Claire est situé à la Ville de Pointe-Claire, au bureau de la sécurité publique. Ce qui est important de savoir, c'est qu'on a, avant, si on est au courant qu'il va y avoir un événement, on est capable de se préparer. On est capable de faire venir des employés en supplémentaire. On est capable de faire appel à notre unité d'équipe élite de rescue, le Pointe-Claire Volunteer Rescue Unit. On est capable aussi de faire du monitoring pour nos collègues des travaux publics, à savoir si on détecte des anomalies, des débordements de l'eau sur les rues. On va aider à peut-être déployer des arrêts amovibles si jamais on voit qu'il y a des rues qui sont impassables. On peut des fois assister le service de police, le service d'incendie. Il faut dire que nous autres, on travaille en collaboration, la Ville de Pointe-Claire, avec ce qu'on appelle le CCMU, c'est le Centre de coordination des mesures d'urgence de l'agglomération de Montréal. Fait que oui, on a nos propres initiatives en mesures d'urgence, mais on fait partie d'une plus grosse équipe de l'agglomération de Montréal. Souvent, c'est eux autres qui vont nous donner l'information que, attention, en fin de semaine, il y a une alerte, il va y avoir tant de millimètres de pluie. C'est tout raccordé avec Environnement Québec, etc. Fait que quand on le sait à l'avance, on est capable de préparer en amont. Dans d'autres cas, ben là, on apprend un incident à la dernière minute, comme la dernière pluie qu'on a eue au mois d'août, que c'était pas prévu pantoute, ni le service d'urgence, ni les pompiers, ni nous autres, personne ne l'a vu venir. c'est arrivé, tout le monde était pris par surpris. C'est Dame Nature, c'est la nature des événements. À ce moment-là, ben, moi, je fais rentrer des cadres supplémentaires, je fais rentrer du personnel supplémentaire. On essaie de coordonner les appels, on essaie de prioriser certains appels. Quels sont les appels qu'on peut aider plus de monde, tout en ne pas mettant en danger nos employés. Exemple, si un sous-sol est inondé de 4 pieds d'eau, l'électricité est encore active, j'enverrai ni mon personnel, ni mon équipe de PCVRU, parce qu'à ce moment-là, je risque des dangers. Je laisse aux spécialistes de services d'incendie faire des choses comme ça. Des fois, il faut bloquer des rues parce que même sur des rues comme High Mist, même s'il y a des bassins de rétention, il y a des accumulations d'eau. Fait que, on est tous en train de travailler en équipe, puis c'est ça qui est important. Là. On connaît notre ville, on connaît les points de vulnérabilité, on a une bonne collaboration avec nos citoyens, on continue à travailler avec eux autres. Puis, même la dernière fois, on a pris toutes les informations de toutes les personnes qui ont été impliquées. On donne ces informations-là à nos équipes d'ingénierie, communication, puis on travaille. On travaille avec les communications aussi pour préparer les messages pour vous, pour que vous soyez préparés aux événements. Parce que comme nous, on doit se préparer, vous devez vous préparer aussi. Mais on essaie de vous donner le maximum d'informations. Ça fait partie de notre présentation ce soir. Fait qu'en anglais. Tonight, public security is a 24-hour, 7 days a week service. Our communication center is located in Pointe-Claire, but we're part of a bigger team. We work with le centre de mesures d'urgence de l'agglomération de Montréal. So which means that it's the whole entire island of Montreal working together. They have a specific team for emergencies that cover large areas of the island. They give certain of our commands. We have certain of our own plans locally, but we also work with them. If we know in advance that what's coming, then we can prepare, we could put more staff, we could put more people at the communication center, but it's always a question of capacity. I can put 4 or 5 people at the communication center, but if I've got 1,000 calls every 10 minutes coming in, like 311, like 911, there's only so much the capacity we could do. Same thing with my staff. We work with the rescue unit, which is a group of volunteers, and they're 100% volunteers, but when emergencies like this happen, we put them on call, they're all ready, and if we need them to cut trees or pump, then we can use them for that. But again, it's a question of capacity. I don't have 1,000, there are about 25 presently. We help Public Works by monitoring the area, by sending Public Works in the right zones, setting up water gates with Public Works to protect certain specific buildings of the city, because if we lose our capacity to help you, well then we're at a disadvantage, so we have to make sure that the city continues to be able to operate regardless of the storm. And in certain places, we'll move equipment around, we'll try and help everybody. When we have a reactive situation, it's because we don't know what's coming along. In last August, nobody knew. Not Environnement Québec, not CCUMU, Sécurité Civile, not us. Nobody knew what was coming. You know, I think they were saying we were going to get like 5 millimeters of rain. Nobody gets excited about 5 millimeters of rain, but it's always a question of how much rain in how much time. We could get 100 millimeters of rain, but if it's over 4 days, it's not the end of the world. So in that case, while we do a bit the same thing, we call in more employees and we try and prioritize what we need to do. We call our rescue team in and we take one call at a time and we try and give the calls that have the most impact on people who can help the most. But we know everyone wants our help at the same time. The important thing is if you're going to call us once. Some people were calling with 3 or 4 phones at the same time. Well, you're just going to block all the lines for everybody else. Just be patient and try and get through to us. And every call counts. We're there for you. And basically, in a nutshell, that's what ISP can offer you. Every person is important to us, but we have a good cooperation with our citizens, you know. And even amongst neighbors, we see that there's a really good cooperation. So we count on you. It's a team effort. Thank you. Well, I pretty much said all that there.
Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. Donc, au niveau de l'ingénierie, what we do on a yearly basis is basically gathering information, data collection. So throughout the year, in preparation of our future projects that we'll be preparing for the next year, We do various collecting data, so sewer TV inspections. Again, it's not the entire network, it's basically what we need for us to prepare our future projects in the next coming years. We do also land surveying to make sure that we're ready for us to prepare and do our designs. We do caractéristiques environnementales, basically, just to make sure that if we need special permits or authorization from the minister, we have it all ready in advance. We do soil testing depending on what's on the site. Can we reuse it? Can it be reused somewhere else? Or do we have to get rid of all of it? On a yearly basis as well, every time we look at a project, we try systematically to incorporate stormwater measures in every of our projects. Sometimes it's doable, sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. We'll see later on in 2026 when we go through the different projects. Some are very positive and we can try to do something to improve the situation. And also with all the data that has been collected, with the phone calls, with the emails, with all the information that we get through communication and the comments that we get from Public Works as well, we're able to analyze that and identify the problem areas as well on our maps. This is very small, just to give you an idea of the different maps that we have. We have maps with the addresses, we have maps with the drainage system, with the variant basins as well, and the different color are coded for, was it the event of August 9th, 2024? Was it the event of this year in July 25? So we try to gather the information on those maps and for us to focus on the problematic areas. As you could tell, there's a bit of red a bit everywhere. It's not like we could say, okay, this area specifically is where we should address in the next 2-3 years. But we have an idea. We have certain areas that should be looked into more details. If we think of Belmont, Glenlyn, this is something that we'll be talking about later on. If we're talking about Cragmore, Braybrook, that's something else also that has been mentioned in the past. And when we look at the various simulations with the hydraulic tools that we have, we can confirm a few information as well when we gather all these information. So before I go ahead with the various projects that we are going to look into in the future, just a few information. It's nothing new. Everyone's aware of this. All the various les pluies torrentielles qu'on a vécues au cours des dernières années. On voit que ça augmente considérablement. On ne peut plus dire que c'est une fois de temps en temps, il y aura de telles pluies. On peut voir, là, depuis 2022, on a pratiquement des pluies une fois aux 100 ans, 1 à 2 fois par année. Donc, on voit que c'est la tendance, c'est les changements climatiques, c'est quelque chose avec lesquels on devra travailler pour le futur. Il y a des mythes aussi qui existent. On avait 1 an depuis la tempête débit pour régler ça. Qu'est-ce qu'on a fait? Qu'est-ce que Pointe-Claire a fait pour régler ça? On s'entend que les réseaux d'égouts datent de plusieurs années. C'était bâti lorsqu'on parlait d'un climat du 20e siècle. On a eu beaucoup d'adaptations au cours des dernières années. C'est pas que tout d'un coup, depuis qu'on a ces pluies torrentielles-là, qu'on pense au réseau pluvial. Depuis que je suis ici en 2000 et même avant ça, mes prédécesseurs, ils incluaient le drainage. C'était des simulations hydrauliques qu'on faisait, évidemment. Les types de pluie ont changé. On a adapté les types de pluie avec les nouvelles réglementations gouvernementales aussi pour s'ajuster. Mais là, ça va plus vite que ce qu'on était habitué, puis c'est quelque chose avec lesquels on devra travailler dans le futur. Il faut juste élargir les conduites d'égout. Oui, mais on n'a pas d'arbres avec beaucoup d'argent dans le parc terracotta qui pourrait nous aider pour investir et faire tous ces travaux-là. Donc, si je résume un petit peu, for the stormwater system, how does it work? Well, basically, the stormwater network is designed to collect and direct rainwater from streets and properties to the storm sewer pipes, which then discharge into the lake. So the catch basin that we see near the curbs in the street, collect the water, brings it to the main pipe, and then towards the lake afterwards. During light rainfall, the system operates efficiently. Rainwater flows into catch basin and is quickly drained towards underground pipes, preventing water accumulations. When it's a bit heavier, when there's a lot of rain, now the fact that the system cannot hold it, all of it, so then you start getting water accumulation on the street. Again, when we do our simulation with our network, with our hydraulics tools that we have, it's not ideal, but it's still part of the retention. When we have a bit of water in the street, it's normal, it's not ideal, I agree, but it's part of the concept, the design for a 1 to 5 year rainfall. This is something that is considered normal. Obviously, we don't want it to go towards the properties, that's something else. And in extreme cases, then the system is completely full and it actually inverts the flow. It reverses the flow instead of going in. While the pressure is so strong in the pipes, it just comes back up afterwards. So, like I said, we have a design that we use a 1 to 5 year rainfall event. This is something that has been used for the longest time. We improved and used the new rainfall that are the data from the ministère as well. So we adjust as we go along. And also to consider larger retention basins and also green infrastructures. What we want to do here is basically slow it down. Instead of sending everything right away to the network, what can we do to slow it and make sure that we can increase the infiltration? As you know, Pointe-Claire has a lot of clay. The soil is clay. That's not the best material or soil to allow, but it's something that we have to work with, and it's also something that we use in our calculations. Donc, le but des infrastructures vertes, c'est vraiment, ça va être important, puis c'est des verbes super importants qu'il faut retenir, là. Rediriger, collecter, emmagasiner, ralentir, filtrer et redistribuer les eaux pluviales. Comme j'ai dit, on ne veut pas envoyer l'eau immédiatement au réseau parce que c'est ça qui fait en sorte que ça vient en surcharge le plus rapidement possible. Donc, évidemment, en faisant de tels aménagements... Oups! Oh, regardez pas. Alors, c'est ça, on veut améliorer la qualité de l'eau, diminuer les risques d'inondation et d'érosion et de s'assurer de travailler avec les nappes phréatiques aussi. Des fois, on a beau dire on va ralentir, mais la nappe phréatique est tellement haute qu'on doit travailler avec ces données et ces informations-là pour ensuite alléger la pression sur nos infrastructures. Donc, lors de faibles pluies, les parcs et les espaces verts gèrent l'eau provenant des surfaces et des rues adjacentes. Donc, le but, c'est de prendre l'eau où est-ce qu'il y a des accumulations en temps normal, si on peut dire, de bonnes pluies, et de la rediriger dans des espaces verts ou dans des parcs pour ensuite permettre au réseau de résorber ensuite. Lors de fortes pluies, là, encore une fois, ça s'en va vers les surfaces engazonnées et ça agit comme un réservoir naturel où est-ce que là, on peut voir des accumulations à l'intérieur de ces infrastructures. So what are the benefits? Obviously, making it greener, it's always nicer. Biodiversity, reduction of heat islands, and also making it more beautiful. These are just a few examples that we could use. We could have those vegetated swales or ditches. We could have permeable pavement, drainage pavement. We have also these ones, bioretention islands or rain gardens like we talked about earlier on Winthrop Avenue, for example. That's something similar that we did alongside the road near the school. We have also grass-covered drainage trench that could be installed along big open green spaces. And the floodplain, that's something I'll explain a little bit later with our 2026 project that we have on the table for next year. et des solutions un peu plus conventionnelles, là, donc de la rétention en conduite surdimensionnée, souterraine, ou encore des grands bassins de rétention de sédimentation à ciel ouvert, là, tels qu'on voit ici, ou encore même au parc Hermitage. C'est un bassin qui est également dans ce style-là. Donc, pour le plan de gestion des eaux pluviales, c'est en lien direct avec notre planification stratégique 23-2030. Donc, au niveau de l'objectif, ici, on parlait de transition écologique et résilience. Qu'est-ce que Pointe-Claire peut faire pour vraiment être plus résilient face au changement climatique? On veut également, avec cet outil-là, être en mesure de mesurer la vulnérabilité des différentes infrastructures existantes. On veut cibler les zones prioritaires d'intervention, trouver des solutions à court, moyen et long terme. On veut établir des stratégies d'adaptation dans la planification annuelle des travaux. En d'autres mots, qu'est-ce qu'on peut intégrer au PTI d'une année à l'autre? On s'entend que la liste de besoins est énorme et les enveloppes budgétaires sont toujours à respecter, évidemment. Donc, ça fait partie de la priorisation également. On veut diminuer les charges, les volumes et les débits dans le réseau et améliorer la résilience de la ville. C'était mentionné tantôt avec M. Girouard, comme quoi on a créé un partenariat avec l'ETS, donc un de leurs professeurs, honnêtement, une ressource incroyable dans le domaine. Là, partout où vous parlerez au Québec, là, ils vont connaître M. Jean-Luc Martel. Là, donc, c'est quelqu'un de très, très compétent dans le domaine avec un de ses étudiants en maîtrise. So, they're looking into this Stormwater Management Plan specifically for Pointe-Claire. It's not like they'll take something that they did elsewhere in another city and then, okay, we'll plug it in Pointe-Claire and we're going to make it work. No, they're really going through all the data that we have. It's a very, very detailed project and very anxious to show the results that are going to come later on. We've been looking at this since April 2024. So just to give you an idea, it was before the August 9th events. So just for people to know, it was on our radar before, and then we did the different steps, signed with the ETS for the mandate, and then it's underway as we speak, and we should expect a first report in April of next year and next summer for a final report. En bref, c'est quoi un plan de gestion des eaux pluviales? On l'a identifié rapidement aussi tantôt. Là. Donc, c'est d'identifier les zones vulnérables selon les topographies, les infrastructures, leurs capacités. C'est d'ajuster, de recalibrer l'ensemble de nos simulations hydrauliques. Donc, on travaille avec un système depuis plusieurs années. On voulait être certain qu'il était à jour, qu'il reflète les nouvelles données de pluie actualisées. On veut parler de pluie actuelle. On ne veut pas parler des pluies des années 80. On veut vraiment que ça soit quelque chose à jour avec les réalités, avec tous les développements qui sont également incorporés. On veut identifier les différents risques à certains endroits lors d'événements extrêmes. We want them to recommend infrastructure upgrades and green interventions on public and private properties. Give us recommendations. What can we do on our properties and what can the residents do as well? Provide a prioritization framework to guide future investments, so based on cost-benefit analysis, risk mitigation as well, and impact on residents. We want to integrate land use planning considerations as well, ensuring that zoning and development policies align into stormwater objectives. So the bylaws that are existing now can be adjusted. We'll look into this with the planning, with the general managers as well. So it's something that we're going to adapt to what's coming up and propose monitoring and maintenance strategies to ensure long-term effectiveness. Donc, les différents projets, je l'ai abordé brièvement. On a en cours, on a qui s'en viennent l'année prochaine et dans les années à venir. But what has been done in the past, those were the ones that were kind of more important, where we basically made the pipes way bigger on Hymus, Holiday, Cartier, Mason, and Ovid. Maybe you've seen this along Hymus in front of the terrarium, for example. It's not under the street, but it's on the green space on the south side of Hymus. Again, like we had mentioned earlier, Parc Hermitage with the bassin de rétention. Something more recent, we did the parking lot at Public Works. We did some jardins de pluie au Parc Belmont and again, close to this one near the Sentier near Sunnyside Avenue as well. This is a table showing the various projects with the years that they were done and the amounts that were reserved for these projects. As for the 2025 projects, what we did was our big project was Elgin Park. That's the green space between Elgin and Elmwood. Basically, we wanted to make sure that the water that was on this site was managed properly, not going towards private properties as well. So it was a great experience doing this one. We learned a lot. We integrated a lot of stormwater management strategies in this project. It was a great big project that we did this year. Winthrop, I mentioned it a few times. This is the area that we are talking about. And then Lansdowne Park, we did a bit of drainage management with various ditches and drainage pipes in that project. As for Waverly Woodland Phase 2, it's something that it's on the CIP for 2026, but we're also continuing our approaches with the ministère to make sure that we get all the les autorisations requises. Now for 2026 projects, our main one, it's going to be the area that's near, just north of Belmont Avenue and south of the Terracotta Park. Just to give you an idea, this is Glen Lynn Avenue and then Belmont right here. So there's various issues here. Glen Lynn, as we know, the big ditch going through Terracotta here, with the grille that Public Works has to ensure the proper functioning of this one. There's also a pedestrian path in the park that's a little bit higher on top of the hill here. I don't know if you see it as well. A lot of the water that was coming from the top of the hill towards the back of those properties, that was one of the issues as well. And when there's big events, yes, the water can overflow here. There's water accumulations here many times, a little bit further along Belmont and Saddlewood here as well. So this was the original project. And then as we were going further and further and gathering information, we said, okay, what else can we do? The fact that there's a papillon butterfly park right here, there's a big soccer field here, a big green space. And when we were looking at the various accumulations here, there, we said, okay, what can we do that will improve and have a bigger retention capacity? Again, je vous rappelle les verbes qu'on avait tantôt, là, rediriger, collecter, emmagasiner et ralentir. Donc, c'est des icônes que vous allez voir souvent si vous voyez nos présentations, là, mais on veut vraiment passer le message, puis c'est ça qu'on veut faire dans un type de projet comme ça. Donc, on a des belles opportunités. On doit présenter le projet dans tous les détails aux membres du conseil prochainement. J'entrerai pas trop dans le détail de ce projet-ci, mais dans le fond, tous les intrants, tous les aspects qui ont été adressés ou soulevés lors de la préparation sont également incorporés. Donc, on a une belle opportunité, a big green space. What can we do with this? So, it's something that we're going to incorporate in our design. Basically, it's not a secret. Well, create a floodplain. So, basically, this is our floodplain where we would have excess water going into this area. A little bit higher than this one, so at least if this is flooded for a little bit because of the big heavy rainfall for a certain period, this is not usable, but then after a few hours or a day maybe, it then goes back to the lower section. These are just the basic principles, but on finalise la conception là, avec les différentes données. Qu'est-ce qu'on a besoin pour compléter notre conception, justement? C'est quelque chose qu'on fait tout au long de l'année. On a soulevé brièvement tantôt ce qu'on faisait. Ça, c'est une coupe dans l'autre direction, là. Donc, si on abaisse le terrain de soccer, par exemple, ça nous crée une zone d'entreposage pour l'eau durant les pires événements. Ça s'en va dans le point bas. La surface de jeu est encore utilisable. Et quand le réseau est en mesure de reprendre l'eau, ben, cette accumulation-ci retourne tranquillement dans le réseau pluvial. Donc ça, c'est les grandes lignes. Je n'entrerai pas beaucoup plus dans le détail, mais c'est le principe de base qu'on veut faire avec un tel projet. Donc, les différentes études préliminaires qu'on doit faire. Donc, oui, on a eu beaucoup de choses qu'on a fait avant. Il y a des choses qui se font pendant la conception. Et pour finaliser nos conceptions, pour être sûr de nos quantités, de nos estimations de coûts, on a également besoin de faire tout ce genre d'études préliminaires. Donc, au niveau des permissions, au niveau du gouvernement, est-ce que c'est un milieu humide? Est-ce qu'on a besoin d'un biologiste, d'un arpenteur géomètre? Dans ce cas-ci, yes, we did need it because it was in a terracotta park, not knowing exactly if it was a parc, un milieu humide. So we did need a specialist in this. When they did the land surveying in Terracotta Park, they surveyed all the various trees. What's the pattern of the water? Where does it go? Where does it drain? And these are all information that was necessary for us to do our design. And obviously, the land surveyor will make sure that we work on our city property, that there's no servitude, is there Hydro-Quebec, any services? So stuff like that has to be looked into prior or during our design. In this case, the land surveying was done in spring of 2025. Again, caractérisation environnementale. So in order for us to get the okay from the ministère, we've got to make sure that the biologists are considering, sont venus observer au printemps, in the summer, and in the fall again, to make sure that all the végétaux, les zones humides, et la présence d'animaux également. So depending on the season, they come 3 times at least and make sure that they see all of these information for us to get the okay afterwards. There's many discussions, a lot of communication with them, so it's a lot of back and forth for us to get the l'approbation later on. And the report should be done, we should receive it within the next few weeks. The last 2 information that we really like to incorporate is also in this situation. We had this entire sector that was, we sent letters, and it was a survey. 185 letters were sent to residents. We wanted to gather the information. Okay, have you ever got any floods? Where was the water coming from? Was it coming from the street? Was it coming from the back? We wanted to gather all the information for us to do the design properly and make sure that we address whatever situation that we can do on our property. If we do something here, then it solves something else on the private property. That's our goal. That's what we want to incorporate in our project. And last thing also, maybe you've seen these machines here. It's basically to do soil testing. They determine on a certain area of our project. There's a standard. If we have, I don't know, this size of project, then we need to do 30 boreholes, or there's a distance between each borehole that's necessary as well for us to gather all the information. When they do the testing, are we going to be able to reuse that material, or it has to be excavated and thrown, or à d'autres zones de... So that's it. So basically, this is the last information that we really need for us to complete the design. And again, we'll be presenting the final project to council before there's anything public that will be going and be available. Our other project that will be incorporating storm management project will be Ivanhoe. Like we said, every single project that we put on the CIP, we look, is it feasible, yes or not, no? And if it is, we try our best to incorporate it. In this case, again, we had Ivanhoe on our radar for the longest time. You could see the situation with the water main, the sewers were in really bad condition. The road base is really bad as well. So that was a project that was on our CIP for a while. And because we're talking so much of stormwater management, we said, okay, what can we do in this case to improve the situation? Just to get back here. We have Ivanhoe that connects onto Braybrook. So obviously we cannot necessarily put a very, very big pipe on Ivanhoe knowing that Braybrook has a certain diameter. We won't put something bigger on Ivanhoe and then c'est l'effet d'entonnoir basically. You want to make sure that it collects and retains enough water without it causing any problems to the residents before it goes back into the network slowly. So this is just an existing view of the street as it is right now. So you have your paving, you have some places you have a ditch, some places have been filled, but there's little pipes underneath on both sides. You have the water main in the middle, the sanitary at the bottom here, where you have the property lines on each side. So basically this is the existing. We're planning a presentation to the residents that are directly involved in this project. So at this point, it's something that we can share just this, but it's something that we're definitely, on veut vraiment optimiser la rétention, la gestion des eaux pluviales dans un petit projet comme ça. Chaque mouvement, chaque projet qu'on fait vient aider la gestion des eaux pluviales sur l'ensemble du territoire également. So that's pretty much it.
Just to quickly recap, I hope that the information was interesting and useful. Some points to retain, essentially in 2026, upcoming developments. We have over $3.1 million. Those are the projects that Benoit had just outlined with respect to stormwater management on a public domain that will take place throughout the next year. We also have the update of our bylaws and a new bylaw that will essentially allow us to launch a subsidy program for interventions on the private domain. And we have new communication tools also that are coming out with respect to heavy rainfall and stormwater management. And once again, we want to deploy those in early of 2026. So just a quick recap for you, some elements to retain. And on that note, we're open for questions, and we thank you for your attention this evening. Yeah, if those of you that want to ask questions, you can come up to the mic. And
good evening. You mentioned Braybrook and also Maywood. We have already the sewer pipe, they changed it in the 90s to huge, but we get the same flood, but sewer backup. Usually we have the drain on the ground, and we have the hole for the sub pump. In the past, when we have no electricity, when the sub pump stop and the water flow, it drained in the hole in the middle of the basement. But in 2024, it happened, the water came from that drain. And thanks God I was downstairs, I blocked it, but with still too much pressure, it filled up the basement, like not like about 6 inch. So that is exactly Maywood. You changed the pipe in the 90, huge, I think about 6 feet. Before it was a small one. And even when the small one, when we used to have a rain, heavy rain, it happened in 96, we never have a flood or any sewer backup. But this is what's happened in the 24 August 9.
Like we had mentioned also, the various myths that are saying, okay, just increase the pipe. We'll be able to solve all the problems if we just increase the size of the pipes. It's one option, but it still won't solve everything. We have to work with plan B, or where we could, yes, we know sometimes even the big pipes will be full and will backflow because the pressure is so strong. And I understand, it seems like because we got it bigger, then we're going to be okay for all the various occasions. So we did improve the situation, but it's not a 1 in 100-year rainfall that will address every single time. First of all, we'll be tripling that pipe if that's the case. And even then, if it's going to serve once every 30 years, and the investment is just, at one point it's money as well. And that's something that's very sensitive that we want to address as many situations as possible. But we just, at one point, cannot design for these type of events on a yearly basis.
Because me, I live in the 90, since in the 90, in Maywood, the same house. In the 90, we don't have all this high-rise building built for the last 10 years, more than 20 high-rise building, more than 5,000 units. We don't have all that in the 90. That's why all the, even the pipe was small for the sewer to clear the, we don't have any problem. All this high-rise building of 5,000 and increase all the population more than 10,000 people. I'm sure that is also affect the flow in the sewer, because all this wastewater where it goes to the sewer. So if it's full, it's going to back up.
The climate change is one thing for sure, but back then also the retention, the bylaws for retention on their own properties were not the same. We reduced it to it's only 10 liters per second per hectare as we speak right now. So it's something that we really reduced compared to what it used to be in the past. So it's not because of the new development that there's more water. Actually, when they redevelop and change the zoning or the properties, at this time, as soon as they change whatever on their parking lot or on the roof of their buildings, they have to have a retention, which they didn't have in the past. So we improved the situation, basically.
Yes, I understand, but the wastewater from all this unit, where it goes to the sewer. If the sewer can value...
No, but there's less water that's coming in. Even if there's a new building, a new development, there's less water going in the network than it was in the past. Because now we have restrictions. Before there was none.
Okay, do you have any solution now for us? Because that is exactly what's happened. And the drain, when it's going to, the water is coming. Even I block it, but it was so strong that the pressure, it came out.
Well, you mentioned Braybrook and Maywood.
Yeah.
That's an area that's part of the zones that we're looking into.
Too many in Maywood also happen, because you mentioned only Braybrook, but Maywood is too many houses happen.
Well, that's it. I said sector of,
Okay.
yeah.
I hope we work together on all that, really. Like if you want any information, we can give all the information and we show you all. Okay. Even I have the sample from the water if you want to know exactly. I kept it. If you know there is sewer backup or rain, I kept it already in a jar.
But it's confirming what we have in our simulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. I'm Hans Volstad. I live at 210 Belmont, facing Terracotta Park, right in front of at 200 Belmont, facing the park and the.
Into the mic, we can't hear you.
Not at all, eh? Oh, okay. Damn. Let's bring it up there. Okay. Is that better? All right. Yeah. So I've lived there since 2003. I notice you've been mentioning dates here, 2022, 23, 24, 25. I was flooded in 2013. When the city came to look at the house in 2013, the inspector had never heard of that street flooding before. I had seen it flood twice before then. So this is not, well, my point is this is not necessarily only a very recent event. It's been flooding for a long time. I try to speak to, I've got some neighbors who have lived there since the very beginning, 1986. I haven't been able to get a hold of them to get their impression. Let me know just how long has this been going on. I suspect it's been going on since 1986. That Belmont now is a low point. It's lower than Donegani. The corner of Saddlewood and Belmont is lower than Donegal Street is. It was designed that way. Okay, so so I'm very interested in what you're planning to do in front of my house.
Well, like I said, we have to present the final project to council first, and then.
All right. So is it because you don't know more than what we've seen today, or you're
we
just
know
not
more.
able to?
It's just something that we're not going to share to everyone before council sees the final
all right,
project.
because I'm very curious how you're going to fill those basins.
No, but, sorry.
That soccer field is probably, I don't know, 2 meters higher than the street, so I'm very curious to know how the water is going to get to that particular.
It will be dug, obviously. It will
Whoa,
be created
that's,
the low point in that
Well,
area.
okay, you're going to dig down below the street surface? Okay, there's going to be a lot of trucks going in front of my house for the next few years in that case, for sure. All right.
Another issue, just to add extra information, that Glenlyn ditch coming from Terracotta, it's also something that we have discussions with the Agglomération de Montréal, because it's their ditch. They're supposed a certain diameter. It's their responsibility.
Oh.
We are working Public Works with them as well. We maintain it, but it's very hard to have access. There's no roads or no paths for equipment as well. So it's we had a meeting with them a few weeks ago and tried to make them more involved in this issue.
All right, because already we know that that creek is a huge retention basin already, right? The creek is surely 2 or 3 meters deep, full of water when before it starts overflowing onto Glenlyn.
Yes.
Have you considered to actually build a berm along the top of Glenlyn Street so that we're holding more water back into the park? You could do thousands of cubic meters of water, additional water retention in the park itself by building a berm there of maybe 100 or 200 feet.
Again, we sent the plans and specs that were, because the project, the last year was in 2000. There was a project that was done for the entire creek, and it was under Montreal as well, so we sent them the specs to make sure that they address the situation, but any options would be considered at one point.
So are you saying it has been considered, should have been considered, or
not
will
the
be?
berm itself, but someone from the meeting had mentioned, well, why don't we have a retention basin somewhere in the park?
But
Again,
I mean, it's not even somewhere in the park. It's at the top of Glenlyn
Yes,
Street.
but
raise the ground level so that a lot more water gets held back.
held back there, but then what's the
But
consequences for
Upstream,
the,
none. I think you've got a good drop through the park itself from St. Louis Street down to Glenlyn. There's got to be 4 or 5 meter drop there at least.
it's going to be looked at with the
Well,
agro.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I have many questions, but I'll leave it to those lining up anyhow.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good evening. Catherine Baxter, 112 Saddlewood, so in the same neighborhood, but around the corner from my neighbor who's just speaking. Monsieur Roland mentioned that there was a blocked pipe from CN and CP. Our theory in our specific neighborhood on Saddlewood has been that that was a significant contributor to the water on Terracotta Avenue. Just wondering if you can provide us with an update of what's going on with that blockage that was found in CN and CP's pipe.
Yeah, we've been working with them to get that partial blockage resolved. So on our end, we recently actually pumped out all the water in front of their pipe so we can go down and get proper pictures so that we can give them all the information necessary for them to carry out the work. And we actually have a meeting with them coming up this week on site in order to show them exactly where the issue is. They came, they did some work. There's still more work to be done. So by pumping on our end, we were able to clear out all the water to get a clear portrait of what the issue is on their side. And at the same time, we went on the other side because CN is on the south side. We were able to go on the CN side and get a clear picture also of the issue on their pipe, because there are a few different pipes and it becomes an open ditch at some point between the tracks. So there's a lot of debris that can end up in that pipe because of that. And those sections of pipes belong to them, so we need to follow up with them to make sure they do their work. And so it's a continuous thing. There's two entities involved, and we can't intervene directly on the tracks. We can't even go on the tracks, but we're working closely with them to get it done as quickly as possible.
Appreciate the update. So my follow-up question then is for Monsieur Benoit, is if that has been determined to be the reason for the flooding that took place on Terracotta Avenue? If the tracks being blocked, if that is specifically the reason why the corner flooded?
It's certainly one of the factors, for sure. It's one of the factors. There are, in that area though, there are a multitude of different factors. There's the Glanlin area and stuff like that. That's why we're collecting all the information to figure out exactly where the problem came from and how to best address it. Because we don't want to address what we think the problem is and then it just happens again, right? So there are a multitude of different areas, and for different parts it's kind of still a relatively large area.
Yeah.
But if there's anything that's partially blocked, well, that for sure needs to get resolved. So that's an easy win. And then on the engineering side, they continue with their projects to do a full analysis of the area.
Okay, final question for, this one goes to Monsieur Roland again and to Monsieur Tanguay. In terms of the response both by Public Works and Public Securities in the event of future emergencies, how has the city's new support plan, how will that change in terms of emergencies compared to what we've seen in the past?
Well, the objective here is to make it so that there isn't a current blockage. Because in that area, once the water is existing, it's on the surface, we can't pump from one end to the other. It's like pumping the water from one side of a pool to another. It doesn't help, and we can't pump over the tracks either. So we need to get the water across the tracks. And so that's why for us, the immediate intervention is to resolve that issue. That's the urgency for us. Once that's resolved, at least water is going to go through. If the network is saturated, it's saturated. There's nothing we can do. We're in the same body of water.
Can Public Works sandbag against our houses instead of driving through the flooding water? Like, I'm talking emergency matters. I know preventatively you guys are doing what you can. You're up against it with CN and CP. But is there anything in the short term that we can do to see a difference in not having a raging river come between our houses and flood, you know, a dozen houses
Like
there?
I said, we're trying to fix the issue in the short term, but it also engineering has already done surveys of the area to see, because sandbagging has to be done in the right area and has to provide a surface, because if the water is just going around, well, it's just a waste of time. So until we have the actual elevations and everything and we can see that it's actually going to resolve something, it's hard to tell. But for sure, if there's something we can do, we will do it. That's the point. Yeah.
One of the things that we did, Mr. Girouard met with Montreal. He saw Montreal Roxborough, and the reason for that was because they're used to flooding from the river, and they've gone and they've bought all kinds of the latest technology, inflatable dikes, all kinds of stuff. So the idea was to go over and see if there's anything that we could learn from them. They're actually going to come on site in that area because we think we have to do something temporarily, quickly, in case of a short-term flood, and maybe these practices would really work. Instead of having a sandbag, there might be other options. So yes, they're taking it very serious, and they've got some great options coming up, and it's a great initiative that the two municipalities work together because they had experience in this before. So it's going to help with the area.
Appreciate the updates. Thank you.
There's also the fact that now it's more identified, you know, like each storm, it changes. Like we said on the map before, there's sections all over the city. It's not just say, well, it's all concentrated in one area. So we try and keep an eye on our vulnerable points. So obviously this will become one of our vulnerable points. And we noticed that last time water was going towards the houses because people were driving up and down the street. So our response will be, we'll block it off as soon as we can. So at least we don't have that. Public Works does have a second gate. They can get out through the back end. And we can continue to make sure that the least water goes towards the houses. And if the sewers are cleared like we're hoping to, and the water passes under the tracks, so it's a non-issue because we won't even have to go there. But there are things that we can do in response. I can't bucket the water out of there or pump it over to the next manhole because it's going to go right back to the same place and come up the manhole on Terracotta Avenue. But at least if we can maintain that people don't drive through it and send waves to your houses, it's already a good start.
Sounds like an improvement. Thank you. Thank you all.
Hello, my name's Rob Tipney. I live at 5 King. Unfortunately, our flooded area didn't make your top 5 list for this year. Maybe next year. We live in a very concrete area. We're right beside 2 gas stations, and the building across from us also was deemed commercial after the residential house was torn down. So all that water collects and doesn't get absorbed at all by the grass. My question is really about subsidies. We've already put a proposal, and our neighbors have. We both have descending driveways, and so we have to fill them in. And I noticed that you did mention, you just briefly mentioned subsidies. I know Montreal has I believe it's called Renoplex. City of Montreal is offering subsidies to get the work done. We have to get this done. We can't wait because we stay up at night waiting to see how much water's coming down. So to get sandbags out to try to keep the water from our basement. So,
1 foot of water on the street coming down our driveway.
yeah, that, which is so my question is about subsidies. Are they coming? What do you know anything more about it? And is it retroactive? Because we need to get our work done this spring. We can't wait for 2 years. Is there any more information about subsidies?
The subsidies are coming. They'll be coming throughout 2026, but the exact intervention that'll be subsidized is still under evaluation.
So can I assume that it would be retroactive for someone that's gone ahead and done that work?
Those are elements that we're looking to as well. I can't guarantee you that they will or will not, but those are some of the elements that we're reflecting with respect to the subsidy program.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Is King on the list?
King is an area that's been identified in the past. Mr. Fignon mentioned, I know the mapping was small, but essentially there are various areas throughout the territory that have been identified as high-risk areas.
Hello. Hello. My name is Danielle St. Marie. I live at 108 Prince Rupert. Prince Rupert okay, is next to not far from the Lakeshore Hospital, close to Seigneurie Park. Okay. Our street, in the last 20 years, have gotten flooded about 5 times. First, at the beginning of 2000, when all of Hymus was being built and everything, all the water comes down Alston, then down Seigneurie, then down Prince Rupert. Now, as it goes down Prince Rupert towards Seigneurie Park, the pipe doesn't connect. Like, our pipe stops halfway in the middle of the street, and a new pipe, underground of course, starts for Whitley and Seigneurie Park. So all the water would come from Hymus and come and hit there and flood all of our houses. This has happened like 5 times now. Could we have a look at unblocking that pipe and making an open basin in Seigneurie Park that's right there? It's not even used as a soccer park. There's small areas that are used, but large areas in Seigneurie Park that are not used at all and could be dug and used in case of when we have these
Mr.
flash
Fignon
floods.
just confirmed that it is an area that they were looking into. The type of intervention, I can't speak to that, but it is an area that they've looked into, are looking into to
But
mitigate.
did you know that the pipe doesn't connect?
Well, this is new information.
This is why I
Yeah,
wanted
well,
to
that's-
share this with you.
That's why I wrote it down as well, but it was a sector that we had identified earlier.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my name is Jennifer. I live at 136 Saddlewood. I'm actually asking in general if the flood management system also is taking into consideration the spring thaw. The issues, there's lots of people that are not on that map. My mom is on Valois Bay. She has flooding in the spring every year. And that has to do with the creek systems that have been filled in behind Valois Bay that ran, say where the Jehovah Temple is, down in front of St. John Fisher Church. I'm wondering if that stuff has also been looked at and is being incorporated into the flood management system.
Well, the storm management plan that's undergoing as we speak will specify, and this is something that will pop out as well, because we have, yes, the pipes in the street. There's also ditches that are existing or have been filled with time as well. So this is something that'll go through everything again, because in the past it was drainage towards the back, and then people were maintaining it, and then there was a good flow in the front or in the back. This is something that will be addressed in the Stormwater Management Plan. Is it something that we want to go back to? Is it something that we could have a plan B if there's a certain area with problems? It's a heavy rainfall, but also snow melt as well, where we know there's low spots a little bit everywhere in the city.
Okay, and then another question would be, you have your map of where the troubled issues are. Will all the residents have a chance to look at that so that they can also add their areas? Because I know there was a big focus on the people that flooded during the floods, but maybe something more general, just so you can get a better idea of, because there's people that are, here even tonight that are, maybe there's issues that you don't know of because maybe it wasn't on the red flag that popped up in August 2024 or June or July 2026.
Well, just to reassure you, basically, when they did the first presentation of their report that's underway with, again, the Stormwater Management Plan, they put the two data on top of each other. All the maps that we had, the data where there was issues with the floodings in 2024, 2025, and their data, what they had simulated in the hydraulic network tool that we have, and it was matching.
Okay.
Whatever we had as complaints or those data were matching. It was pretty impressive. And
Okay.
Also, this will address the other issues that maybe people didn't call, maybe they didn't have flooded basement, but there are still issues in the street. If it goes too high in the street, obviously it's more at risk for the properties around there.
Okay.
But it was very impressive the way it was matching. The data was very good, and these are also areas that will be looked into.
Okay. Last question. Will there be some kind of public consultation before any of these big programs go forward? And my concern might be the butterfly park that's next to the planned retention area, if there's going to be any changes there, or if there's going to be, protection for that area, or just curious.
Usually the presentation for this type of project will be done to the residents that are close by once the contract is awarded, and we'll be presenting the project, the contractor, the amount, and what is going to be the impact on the close residents to it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Alistair Denning, I live on Braybrook. A couple of quick fire questions first, and then two longer ones. For public works and for public security, what are the contact methods when people have issues? Firstly, if we see an issue, if we see an incident where we think something's blocked. We talked about blockages earlier and reporting.
You can contact the city. The city, there's a number, 630-1234. That's our communication center. Obviously, if you're calling during the event, you might have trouble getting through.
Sure.
You also have different, if you go on our website, you also have different email addresses to contact public security, to contact public works. You can send us a message and say, by the way, did you realize yesterday that we had 6 inches of water on our street? It didn't flood our homes, but I'm just letting you know. We take that into consideration. If there's an active problem and your basement is flooding, well, obviously it's not necessarily to call us, it's to call directly 911, and we'll probably refer you, even if you do get through, we'll probably refer you right back to 911, and we'll get all that information the next few days after a major event, and we put it all together, and that's where we get our maps and all the different people who called. And so your information is important. If you don't get through the first time, send us an email. It doesn't mean you get a response right away, but at least we'll get the information.
Okay, thank you. And then with drainage and so forth as well, same deal?
Yeah, you can contact directly the counter. Sorry. You can contact directly the main number of the city, as Mark mentioned, or via email as well. It goes through to the main communications counter, who dispatches it to us, and and we just carry out a verification, and there's a response that's carried out as well directly to the resident.
So the next question was, which I think we've answered actually, was is there a database that tracks all of these issues so
Yeah.
that we know that we've got 100 issues on that street, 200 over there?
Yeah,
50
every
down here?
time a call comes in or a request comes in by email, it's tracked by the communications department. And a lot of the times these elements are transferred directly out to the technical teams who will do carry out verification. They respond within the built-in system. The information goes back to the communications counter, who then will contact the resident to inform them what was done. And then this stuff stays, and so it's used by the engineering department, by other departments to give us statistics and see and add to the information we already have regarding the knowledge of the network.
Can you surface that information in these sessions as well? Because I think it would help a lot of people understand that, hey, I know everybody's got their own problems. Like I live on Braybrook, we have water coming up as a big issue, but if there's an area that's got much more issues, it helps us put it all in perspective.
I think that was part of the objective of the small plans that were put up. It's just they're small, so it's hard to see, but a lot of it is we put the information on plans so that visually you can appreciate what sectors have been impacted, but also it's also as Benoit mentioned, it's the simulations of the network too that confirm where there are issues, and we want to make sure that our simulations are valid and that represent what is actually happening on site. So that allows us to confirm. But yeah, that information is available, and it could I'm sure it can show up another way. Yeah.
One thing for sure, they've been working really hard on getting the information and trying to put it into a presentation to show to everybody. We rushed this meeting to get it done before the holidays to give you peace of mind that there is stuff going on. So they wanted to hold off to January, February. There'll be more information. Like Mr. Girouard said, there'll be many more consultations. You'll see more data. They're doing still testing, and they're doing all kinds of work to do simulations. So as is going on, it will be transmitted to you publicly and on the website, I presume, right?
You have to remember, climate change is here to stay,
Yeah.
and it's a long-term issue. So eventually, we're committed to making it better. We got to take one project at a time, and the capacity of the city to do one project. So we're going to try and identify those ones that we can reach in a reasonable time limit within our capacity to do so, and then we'll keep moving on to the next ones. And as we do more and more of these projects, we'll get better at them. We'll learn from them, and even the other ones that come down the line will be even more efficient. So eventually, yes, we got an entire city to do, but we'll start one or two projects at a time.
Thank you.
Unfortunately.
Thank you.
Just to answer your question, more precisely with respect to that mapping, essentially the Stormwater Management Plan, once it's presented to the elected officials, can be presented here, and you'll see essentially the areas that...
The hotspots.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane DeCoos. I live on Mount Pleasant in Valois. I'd just like to thank the city for all their efforts to recognize that climate change is real and dangerous, and to thank the city for all their efforts to mitigate and help and study. You've done a great job. Thanks.
Come on, Sandy. Mrs. Fuller, are you in line? Well, you're in line. Well, go to the back of the line.
Hi, Sandy, 100 Sunnyside, and I'm just hoping that you will look into the ditches that run down Sunnyside and the rest of the streets along there. And I'm wondering, is there any way, I know a lot of them are blocked, but is there a way that maybe you could dig deeper behind the two properties on Sunnyside and Cool Breeze and existing streets that have those ditches? Is that possible? Because they used to be a lot deeper, and the city used to come and clean them out. The city used to go up in the spring, and they would go in the fall, and they would clean that all out. Is it possible?
Not every portion of that ditch is city property. that's some of the issue, is that over time a lot of it has become private property. So the portions that belong to us, yeah, they can go with a reprofiling can be done in certain areas, but there's some portions that run along the back of the properties that we no longer have that strip of land that we used to have. So that's something that needs to be looked at before we go. But most of the properties in Pointe-Claire originally had been designed with that ditch along the back of the properties, and over time people raised their lawns or planted trees or planted cabans and filled it up, and it's led to a lot of issues of a lot of drainage issues on a lot of properties. So it's a common issue. That's one of the few areas though where we do have some land still that gives us a little bit of leeway to intervene and help the situation, but it's sort of a common issue that we have, and it's part of the challenges we have to address and look at, and that we'll get a better appreciation of in the plan gestion des eaux.
And the basins that are at the end of those ditches.
Those are the city, yeah, because at the end of the ditches, they connect to the city, right? And it's like
Right.
the same thing on the other streets. Those catch basins, they connect to the city system, but the ditches themselves, or in some cases the piped-in ditches, don't necessarily fall on city land. It's just the way they were done, so it adds additional challenges, but it doesn't mean it's not something that we're taking a look at.
So it's possible to have somebody come and have a look at it?
Yeah, for sure. We can always look at everything, yeah.
Because I'm sure if coming down from Belmont, yes, they are blocked.
Yeah.
But from my end to Donegani is all opened
Yeah,
up.
we'll take a look at it and see where our property lands, but I know in that area there is a strip that belongs to the city, and for sure the maintenance can be done, yeah.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great, because that was the issue last time. That all blocked up, the basin all filled up, and there was nowhere for the water to run except come in the backyard.
We'll note it and we'll take a look.
Super. Thank you very much.
Good evening. What I noticed for both storms, 2024 and 2025, we had the big power outage. So when the power went off, the sump pump stopped working. That's when the house flooded. So can we make sure that Hydro-Quebec is on top of, to provide us adequate electricity? I don't know if it's a question that branches were falling on electricity lines. Maybe it should be better maintained, because I went even for a walk in the evening, and I could hear homes where the generator was working, and that's the area that got flooded. So that's something else to consider.
So first of all, I have a meeting with Hydro, I think it's January 14th, in the new year, to understand why we've had so many power failures. I know, like, for instance, a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, everyone was complaining, but somebody took out a hydro pole, and that's why there's a power failure. Then there was a gas leak in Dorval. They had to shut off the power. Sometimes it's not always Hydro's fault. There's other circumstances, but I want to get the list. And as far as you're right, there's a lot of times it is trees that's the problem. Hydro, last time we talked to them, they maintain the tree canopy along the hydro lines on an average of every 4 years. But they need to do it more because there were branches that came back. So they did do an intervention after only 2 years, made a big difference. You've seen them work in the area a lot lately. But the trees are definitely a big problem. There are a lot of mature trees, especially in Pointe-Claire. We're trying to save as many trees as we can, but in the meantime, there's a negative side to it. So, but that will be all stuff that will come out when I meet with Hydro in January, which I will let everybody know exactly
Yes,
what
because I
that came
was
up
wondering,
with.
when you take your statistics, were you asking people, did you have a power outage, which also contributed to your flood?
Well, we know where the power outages were in those stats. We know what area was out.
You know, okay.
And yes, that's part of the, and maybe that'll be part of your subsidy program, that maybe people have to buy a sump pump with a battery or something. But that's all stuff we're looking at, or maybe buy a generator. But that'll be all part of what we're coming out with the subsidy
Oh, that
program.
would be cool, a subsidy for a generator.
But there are some pumps now that come with marine batteries, and
Okay.
that way it won't last you for 12 or 14 hours, but you might get 3-4 hours out of it.
Okay.
And generally speaking, when there's power outages, they don't necessarily last all day, all the time. So that's there's options that are available to you on the private side, or like the mayor said, a generator which will run your sun pump. So at least again you'll avoid the water backing up in that house slowly.
Okay. And my other point I was thinking of during the presentation was you're gathering information, you're having people fill up surveys and all that. I just want to know, are you sharing that information with the insurance companies? Because this year when I shop around for insurance quote, I was told that I'm in a flood zone. I mean, I'm far from a river or a lake. Why would I be considered in a flood zone? And where did they get that information?
Well, insurance companies will get their own data in order not to have to pay, right? So they'll create their own database.
I'm
But
just shopping for
there is a new
insurance.
flood map that just came out by Quebec, and not only because of the flood that we had the other day, but from going back to 2018 when we got flooded. So Quebec has created a whole new flood map, which I believe it just came online, and that's the information that they come out with themselves. They do the flood map, and we don't do that.
Yeah, 'cause
But insurance companies definitely create data from all their claims, and they ended up creating a.
Because usually that's
an
around
area.
bodies of water, lakes and
No,
rivers.
not necessarily.
Now they're going to have floods for in the middle of a street.
After what we just lived out, there are areas that will be identified as a high-risk area now, for sure.
And there's a new flood map coming out?
It's come out, I believe it's online a couple of days ago for Quebec.
Oh.
I saw something online once where if you increase the water level, which areas flood first, so they have that information.
They have it all.
It doesn't come from the city, that's for sure.
It doesn't come from the city.
Information exists, and you can even find it on the internet.
But does that have something to do with the sea level or something to do more with like the city pipes not working?
It's with elevations.
It's with elevations,
Yeah.
okay.
And Pointe-Claire actually got taken out of the flood map. In 2018, we went to Quebec City, and we were, ourselves and Beacons, Bay D'Urfé were the two first cities to get out of the flood map. Because of our elevation, there's no danger. The only place there was any chance of flooding was at the boat ramp at the bottom of Cartier. So we were the first municipality to get out of it because we did our research. We sent Quebec all the data, so we were not part of the flood map. I want to verify it in the next couple of days that we weren't put back in it, but we were completely out of it.
Okay, and most of our streets also?
Well, that was 2018. That was because of the lake, not because of the streets.
Thank you.
Yeah. Try to do it right this time. Yeah. Hans Volstead again. Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the elevations. I guess we have floods on Hymus, and that's 10 meters higher than the lake, and at the worst of times, it's so that the flooding isn't only related to elevation above the lake. Yeah.
Okay, guys, the person on the webcast can't hear the guy
Okay,
not
sorry.
talking on the mic, so
Sorry.
unfortunately.
Okay. I asked earlier, I've been to one council meeting here previously and asked what kind of studies were being done on the whole flood situation. And the only thing I could get out of that was the ETS master's thesis that was being done at the ETS. But I'm encouraged to see, you mentioned there was a hydrologist here that's been hired, I guess, since then, since the flood of last year.
Our engineers were doing, we've been doing our own simulation on the hydraulic tools that we have for all various simulations.
Okay.
We've been doing it for the longest time together.
Okay, the council was not aware of that, I guess, when I spoke
Okay,
the question,
but we
which
had-
sort of raises one of the...
Our engineering team does it all from those simulations all the way up to the job inspections. But yes, that was part of our design when we were proposing a design or a new street. We were looking into the capacity of the drainage pipe as well as the sanitary pipes. These were calculations we were doing downstairs.
Okay. No,
But this one, it was major because it's the entire city. It's something way more, it's way bigger than what the engineering department could do downstairs.
Oh, okay.
For
So
this specific
and that's
storm.
recent. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm encouraged to hear that you are updating your hydraulic model, and so I asked a question at the council as well, is where, and I'm thinking selfishly now about the pipe from the park, from Terracotta Park down to the lake. Because it's that pipe that's flooding us. So I asked at the time.
I'll just answer a little bit more. On my opening statement, I was telling you how impressed I was with all the work that they had done. They hadn't made it public yet. And that's why we called this meeting, because they have done all these tests and all these scenarios. And yes, we didn't know about it, but they're doing this since, especially the flooding in 2024. They've been working really hard. And I go, you got to show this to the citizens. So that's what the purpose of this meeting was tonight, and there'll be more stuff coming out. So they've done a lot of great work, and now you all know, and I hope there'll be more coming.
Okay, because the question I had at that council meeting is, where is the bottleneck on that pipe? Where there's a restriction somewhere. We already know that the entrance to the pipe is a restriction. That's why it's overflowing onto Glanlyn. But once the water is in the pipe, there's a restriction there. There's something keeping it from restricting its flow into the lake. Do we know from the model what section of that pipe is the actual restriction? Because the city has sent some of my neighbors different drawings. I've requested some myself, and I see that pipe actually has a restriction at the lake itself. It goes up to 7 feet, and then it restricts to 6.5 feet in the last 100 feet going into the lake. That's what causing the?
Well, the drainage system is very complex, and in this scenario, basically, you have one of the largest drainage basin in the city. It starts from the way up north and goes all the way down through Terracotta, where you have 3 big pipes going into the ditch in Terracotta. Then it goes back to that grill at the end of Glenlyn, and then it goes all the way up to the lake. So obviously, when you look at it basically just like this, you say, well, okay, there's 3 big pipes, there's a big ditch, and it goes into a little pipe at the end of Glenlyn. But it's everything else that has to be considered as well. And we know there's sensitive spots. It's just a question of addressing it properly. And again, the AGLO is involved in this project. We want to do our part. Pointe-Claire wants to do their part. We're talking with the AGLO, but we need not only their money, but their engineering staff as well. They have those simulations as well, where they can come and improve the system, yes, on their network, but that touches ours as well locally.
At what point does the responsibility shift from the city to the agglomeration? What diameter? Do we know?
Well, it depends on the pipe. It's more the role of the pipe. So you have collector pipes and you have transport pipes. Once we're talking about transportation of the water, then it's agglomeration. So there's a plan that exists where it's specifically indicated. It's the same thing for aqueduct, for sanitary, and for drainage, different sizes. In general, once we get to the larger dimensions, and there's no catch basins that are directly attached to these conduits. So the ones that all empty into terracotta ditch itself, and everything that goes from Glanlyn out to the lake, it's all 100% agglomeration. We have certain responsibilities. There's shared responsibilities that they give us in order to, because we're here, to upkeep it. But they are responsible for the conception and making sure that it's the right, its diameter, it's sized properly. But it doesn't also mean that the engineering department doesn't look at it and look at it in part of their simulations, so that we can point Montreal in the right direction.
All right. So at this stage, would you be able to? Do you have the data to determine what part of that pipe would need to be rebuilt if it were to be rebuilt? You have a model. You said that's very well calibrated.
Again, that's been addressed with the City of Montreal, and it's something that will be keep pushing. Because yes, Pointe-Claire will do their part. It's going to address part of the situation, but we know from there all the way to the lake, there's diameters that have to be readdressed by the City of Montreal, and they're aware of the situation. We sent them the study as well, so it's a partnership with them. We want to make sure we push them enough to do it faster than later.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. And can I ask, is there anybody in this room who lives on Glanlyn Street? Nope. Okay. Oh yeah. All right. Good. I'll ask you. I'll take it offline. Okay. Thank you.
Roger Palfrey. I live on Embleton Crescent, and I thoroughly enjoyed this information session. You're doing a lot of work, and it's good to see that you are. Before I go, I just want to get back to something that was mentioned, and that is making sure that individuals with their looking after their own property can be part of the team that's trying to deal with this problem of occasional and not so occasional heavy rains. I'm wondering if, I mean, we can all have our stories. I'm not going to go into mine, but I would like to. And it's always nice if there's someone from the city who's able to come to talk individually, or we can go and meet them and talk individually. But often it's a case of someone looking at your property, looking at where you are, how it's situated, knowing what you've already done, what isn't working, and how you might actually improve it within the bylaws and the needs of not overloading the bigger system that you seem to be mostly looking at the moment, quite rightly.
I don't know about a great answer, but essentially got an answer for that in essence that we're working with Éco Habitation Québec to, they would be an entity that would come and essentially evaluate your dwelling, your land, to see what would be the best possible solution for your particular context, okay?
So one would have to report one's problem first to get the attention.
Pardon me?
One would have to somehow let the city know.
Correct.
That we have a problem and some sort of outline of the problem, and then maybe we'd be on a waiting list to be seen by somebody.
Well, the process itself, if you go on the City of Montreal, they use Éco Habitation Québec as well. The process they use with the City of Montreal essentially is you fill out a form detailing your problematic. Éco Habitation contacts you, gets more information should they need more information, and then the dialogue is established between the two to visit your dwelling and identify possible solutions.
So this goes with the City of Montreal.
Currently that's an example with the City of Montreal, and we're trying to replicate that type of service for the City of Pointe-Claire. That's what we're working on moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we will hear about it, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Last question. Is it? You're the last guy. I didn't mean that.
Oh, I live on Parkland, and I've been flooded twice. Called engineering department. They showed up. This guy, Sean, fantastic man, patient, didn't tell me to F off with all my question, tried to answer, like your little camera stuff. But the thing is that I never got a resume of what's happening. How do I get that?
Yeah, I wrote it down. I'll talk with Sean tomorrow.
All right. He is.
Your address, please?
49 Parkland.
49.
And the second question, is terracotta ditch useful for the flooding in Pointe-Claire? Is it controlled enough to slow down the water flow from where it comes from before it gets to the bottom of the hill?
It's a drainage ditch. It's not there to control the flooding. It's there to transport water. That's the way it was originally designed. Montreal designed it and built it in. It was a natural ditch a long time ago, but they rebuilt it in about 2000. Within the ditch, they put a few sort of hydraulic dams that are meant to slow down the water. These dams need maintenance, and there's no way to maintain these sort of hydraulic dams because there's no access within the park. And this is one of the issues that we're working with the City of Montreal to try to get them to fix the issue, so that this can improve the situation. It won't fix everything, but it's one of the measures to slow down the water so it doesn't arrive as quickly. As this fills up with debris over time, the water just flies over it. And if ever you're at the edge of Glanland during one of these storms, we have a good 4 meters of water, and we need to get that water inside the conduit as quickly as possible so it doesn't go over. So yeah.
That's what I'm asking, because I also mentioned that to Sean. On Parkland, we got a low wood, a ditch that's really deep, and there's water drizzled in there. Where couldn't it be used for basin, for maybe the gang up St. Louis to control the water flow that comes down, and maybe we wouldn't get flooded down below?
The way we see it now, every green space is an opportunity. So that's part of what will be looked at in the engineering department. They're looking at all these green spaces, all of our parks, all of our natural environment is an opportunity for us to do better, to better manage the water, slow down the water, so that it doesn't overload the system and cause problems further down the road. So it's a possibility. I can't tell without looking at the details, but I'm sure it's all these areas are up for grabs on the list of engineering for sure.
Because that could be a nice pool
sure.
there. It's huge. It's a big wood.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bonjour, mon nom est Robert Caron, j'habite au 14 Bowling Green à Pointe-Claire. J'ai, dans le fond de la cour, on a un fossé et une conduite fermée pour évacuer l'eau. Et c'est comme entre les deux rues, Bowling Green et Drayton. Et ça va de nord-sud, donc jusqu'au lac. Et j'ai eu plusieurs inondations dans les... Peut-être ça a commencé à partir de 2017, puis on a finalement résolu le problème en 2020. La ville est venue avec un camion à haute pression, puis ils ont enlevé le blocage au niveau de la conduite fermée. Moi, la question que je pose en premier, c'est est-ce que c'est un fossé et une conduite qui est la propriété de la ville ou du citoyen, alors que c'est la ville qui l'a installé?
Ça tombe un petit peu dans... Il y a multiples... Cette conduite-là, en passant, je sais, je l'ai visité personnellement quand j'étais à la ville, quand j'étais dans d'autres rôles, mais cette conduite-là, il y en a qui sont... Il faudrait voir exactement le cadastre, voir exactement où elle est positionnée, voir si on a une servitude. Pour certaines conduites, on a des servitudes. Pour certaines conduites et fossés, ils sont sur la propriété de la ville, mais pour plusieurs, ils ne le sont pas. Et oui, ils ont soit été installés par la ville ou ils ont été installés par le promoteur à l'époque, il y a très, très, très longtemps, ou des résidents qui ont rempli un fossé. Ça fait partie de l'héritage de Pointe-Claire, disons, fait qu'on essaie de les gérer du mieux qu'on peut. Puis juste parce que ça se trouve sur le terrain privé, ça ne veut pas dire qu'on va absolument l'ignorer, mais disons que les solutions vont varier puis vont changer en fonction...
Pour une solution à court terme, on peut s'attendre à ce que la ville vienne nous dépanner, comme exemple, avec une sanivane, s'il faut soutirer les déchets.
Oui, ça se peut, ça se fait, mais ça dépend.
Oui, mais l'autre question, c'était à savoir... comment on fait pour avoir un plan futur pour dire, bon, bien, écoute, est-ce qu'elle est viable, cette conduite-là? Puis si elle est problématique dans 2 ans, 3 ans, 4 ans, c'est quoi les options? Est-ce qu'on peut commencer à envisager ça avec la ville? Comme moi, qui dois-je contacter pour être capable de, au moins, vous dites, vous l'avez déjà vu, mais est-ce que c'est possible de regarder ça un petit peu plus en détail ou ça tombe dans le domaine du privé?
Mais ça tout dépend. C'est du domaine privé, ça change la nature un petit peu, mais ça ne veut pas dire qu'on peut quand même le regarder puis voir dans des projets du service de l'ingénierie, quand on va faire des travaux de drainage dans le secteur, souvent c'est là qu'on a une opportunité de régler certains problèmes, au moins mettre des sorties pour permettre aux résidents de venir drainer leur eau. Ça s'est déjà fait dans d'autres cas. Mais je pense que je vois mon collègue le mettre le garder en note, puis on pourrait regarder, voir...
Des photos, puis c'est comme une surface de facilement 10 à 15 000 pieds carrés qui est inondée. La maison n'est pas touchée, mais le fait demeure que c'est assez impressionnant. C'est noté, parfait. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Hello, I live on St. Louis between Marsh and Delmar. And like the gentleman before me, we didn't make the top 5 either. So we just want to duly noted that you guys are looking into the problem on St. Louis. Because on the last presentation, where the flood was, where the car was floating, that's our house. And it's a finite area, about 100 meters. And my neighbors and I just want to make sure that that was being taken a look at on St. Louis, because I heard nothing. And I talked to my counselor, Mr. Potvin. He's well aware. But we just want to make sure that there's some kind of action, or maybe even a temporary solution, because we've had to, out of pocket, been there for over 2 decades. We've never flooded. We flooded twice in a year. And of course, you know, the insurance does not cover it. So we'd have to call in our own plumbing experts, our own engineering experts, to make sure, just like the gentleman on King, when it rains, we can't sleep, because we don't know if it's going to flood again. And this is a finite area. So all we're asking, more or less, is just to look into the problem, so we know that something's going on there. That's it. But thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Mrs. Fuller, and then we'll call you tonight.
you just made me think of something. All of Saddlewood, before it was built, that was all the brickyards. And in there was an apartment building. So I wonder if there's any hidden pipes underground for sewer system or drainage.
Anything is possible. Unlikely. When they rebuilt the streets, usually they dig all that up, but anything is possible. And we'll normally the things that are connected to the city drainage system, though, we're aware of them and stuff. And a lot of the issues we're having are more on the surface.
Okay.
But certainly.
But that's a possibility.
Sure.
I just wanted to throw it
Thank
out.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah. Around that time. Yeah. Before it was developed. Yeah.
Before you guys were born.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for all that you've done and for putting on this session tonight.
All right, everybody, so that's going to end the evening. Again, so the purpose of tonight was to just let you guys all know, everybody know, we've all lived through hard times, we've all had flooding, that the city really is working hard at it. They're taking it serious. Council's on top of it. Everybody's been affected. And we want you to know we're doing whatever we can. There's a lot of players in it. You heard about the agglomeration. You heard about Pierrefonds and Roxbury. You heard about Montreal. There's a lot of players in it. There's a lot of bureaucracy. We're trying to beat all that. We're trying to get it done as fast as possible. And they're doing a great job. They're a little bit mellow and they don't want to show off what they've done, but they've done a heck of a lot of good work in the last year. So I'd like to congratulate them all. I want to thank them all for coming out here tonight. And I asked them, like I said, to expedite the process. And they weren't happy, but they got the job done. They did a great job. Thank you very much. And I hope you guys all go home. Have a happy holiday. You can sleep well. Merci beaucoup.